Hello and welcome to this week's Whole Week Costa. For Kevin, I'm Jay. On Whole Week Costa, we talk about the Star Wars Clone Wars TV show. We talk about the themes of each week's episodes, including how they can relate to real-world events or pay homage to other media. Each week we tackle 2 episodes, and at the end of each season, we do a season recap. Hello and welcome to this week's Whole Week Costa. For Kev, I'm Jay. Today we're going to be talking about episodes 2 and 3 of a 3-part arc that started with the Citadel. The Citadel, we see Master Piell kidnapped for his hyperspace route from Separatist to the Republic homeworlds. Kev, you want to start us off with Counterattack?
With freed prisoners in their possession and the brutal warden attempting desperately to thwart them, Obi-Wan and Anakin search for a way out of the Citadel and back to Coruscant. The prison, however, has more traps, perils, and pitfalls in store for them than they had imagined, and they must work past their differences if they are to escape. The bid to board their shuttle fails when heavy weapons fire destroy the escape craft. ARC Trooper Echo dies in the blast. The escapees then flee to the caves and call for rescue from the Jedi Temple on Coruscant.
Yeah. So I just want to say, like, these 2 episodes, the previous episode is first time we meet Captain Tarkin, who is Grand Moff Tarkin in the original Star Wars trilogy, or the first, A New Hope. So, and it's crazy.
He progressed to just Moff Tarkin at some point before he became Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess so. But he's Grand Moff Tarkin. He's like a governor of sorts. And the first 2 episodes also of season 3, we meet Echo in the first 2 episodes, and then finally the 19th episode of season 3 we see Echo again, who's now a full-fledged ARC Trooper, and he dies.
Yeah, I think we actually see him. I think we actually meet him in the earlier seasons too, but at least this gives you a little bit of payoff for those, because I remember criticizing the early season 3 episodes that, like, they were fine episodes, but they weren't. I don't know. They weren't the most exciting. I feel like they weren't great season premiere sort of episodes. But I mean, maybe it was just leading off to the payoff for this. I don't know. Kind of like, if anyone's watched the first half of Attack on Titan season 4, it's kind of like that. We have all these sort of, like, kind of boring episodes in the beginning, but they have these huge payoffs later because we get to meet these characters. I feel like that's kind of what they did here.
Yeah. So, and then, so we see this I guess this journey through the Citadel, and we kind of see the exploded view of this the planet the Citadel is on, where it's like already half blown up, and the Separatists have a blockade around it. And they start calling for backup.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a few things in these episodes. I guess the two really big themes in these episodes, or the 2 things I think threaded between the 2 episodes. One that kind of bothered me. One that kind of was, something that obviously was going to happen. One was sort of Ahsoka's role in all this. Like, I didn't really understand why they didn't just have her be part of the team, because there's, like, no point to her sneaking on board, or at least I didn't see a point to it, because first she's told not to go, then she sneaks on board. Then it's like, okay, well, something bad's going to happen because she snuck on board. And then nothing really ever does. Like, and they even keep, like, baiting it. Like Ahsoka does something good at the beginning of this first, or the second episode in the arc, which is, well, I guess it's a good thing I came all along. Like that, like they're just, like, they're begging for something bad to happen, or some negative consequence from her coming along. And then when she meets, this is the next episode, but then when Piell dies, then she's right there. And then again, it's like, oh, okay, well, someone's going to get screwed up because she's there. Because if she wasn't there, then somebody else would have been with Piell. And I guess maybe that's the ultimate outcome. Maybe Piell wouldn't have died, because there would have been a whole different sequence of events if she weren't there. But from what we see in the episode, I mean, then then she, at that point, when Piell's dying and he's like, "Hey, I'm dying. I got to tell you this information real quick." Then she thinks to herself, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't come on this mission," and like is wasting time. I don't know. And then, but then she gets the information, and that seems to go fine. The only hints maybe that there's any consequences for her not coming are at the end of the second episode, or the second episode we watched this week, the third episode in the arc, where she has the conflict with Tarkin, where she says, "Well, I was told to only give this to the Jedi Council," and Tarkin says, "Well, I was told to only give this to Palpatine, basically." But even that's undercut because then at the end of the episode, they ask Plo Koon, "Oh, well, did you send Ahsoka?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I totally sent her. It's cool." Because I feel like Ahsoka is like his protege a little bit from previous episodes, so he protects her. So again, there was just this whole thing happened throughout all three of these episodes that seemed to have no outcome or point for the episodes.
Well, I think part of this, and it's just me speculating and thinking about the episodes a little too much, is that like we see the Force as a real thing. It's just not the episodes before this where they actually go to the Force planet and they meet the Force, like the guy, and the good side and the light side. So I think it's a series of like, and they didn't really explain this in the episode or even really hint on it, but I think it would have been good if they did. That you as a person might have one view, but then the Force has other plans. Like the Force is predetermined. Like this was always going to happen, sort of thing.
Like the Force made her do it.
Yeah, like the Force's plan the entire time was this.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean, or at least it sort of led them in this direction. Um, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know if everything's necessarily predetermined in this universe. Because yeah, we see from the Mortis episodes. I mean, they say this is when they give Anakin the visions, it's like, well, this is likely the future, and then he wants to change it, which is part of why he goes along with the son, and then. And then the father tells him, well, it's not really, it's like this isn't set in stone, basically. So, but yeah, there could be some predetermined path, and then people have the free will to change it, is what it sort of seems like from the Mortis episodes.
Yeah, but if you kind of look at it, he doesn't have the free will to change it. Like he still doesn't change it. Like everything goes to plan.
Well, he didn't change it. Doesn't mean he couldn't change it, but I guess and you wonder if there's like degrees of certainty with these future things, like if with the Force, if you just look at like, okay, well, these are the likely events, and Anakin's personality is just so set in stone that that they were very likely to happen. But I mean, it's still something else going to happen. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's not only him. I mean, Padme before she got pregnant could have said like, well, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to like I can't do this anymore. Like, she could have broke up with him. Like all these things could have happened that would have altered the path. Or like
I'm just saying. I think. I mean, these 3 episodes, this arc, like, I think it was pretty good. We kind of meet one of the bad guys who's. You kind of see that division between regular humans, or not. Well, I guess like a regular force, like the Empire versus the Jedi, and you start to see that animosity between the two. About Tarkin basically just hates the Force and he thinks it's stupid.
yeah, that's the other big theme through these two is Tarkin and Anakin's relationship, and I think it's cool how they do it here because I mean obviously we know where they end up, so I mean you could I don't know, I feel like it could have been easy to do this wrong where you just directly reference things from the movies or whatever, and made it kind of cheesy, but I like here how you show how they meet each other and how they respect each other's, or they have similar point of views. And I think Tarkin's trying to be a little edgy when he says to Anakin about like, oh well, because he just seems like kind of a dick a little bit. But I think he's trying to be edgy where he's like, oh well, the Jedi don't go far enough or whatever. And then I think he was a little bit surprised when Anakin was like, well, no, I 100% agree with that. So, it shows just Anakin again in general. I mean, that he just can't get in line with tradition in the Jedi Council, which is a lot of what the Jedi are based on. I mean, the Jedi tradition, I think, is a really powerful driving force for most Jedi and for the Jedi Council. And I mean, like, Anakin and Tarkin would argue that's a bad thing, but it is kind of what holds things together a lot. And the fact that, I mean, Anakin just is honestly pretty blatant about disrespecting that, I think gives you a good idea of where things are going for him. And then, it's interesting here. One of the notes I took was that, Tarkin just sort of respects power. So I think, oh,
Well,
sorry.
well, as you see, like what you're getting at is like when you go back to the New Hope or forward in the timeline or whatever, you see Tarkin and Vader kind of having these snippets, like basically Tarkin who's Grand Moff and Vader who's like second in command. Like Tarkin's basically like, okay, whatever, Vader, you and your old tricks. Like no one, like Tarkin still has that, like even though Vader's second in command, Tarkin's still like no one, you know, I'm second to no one. Like I listen to the Chancellor and only the Chancellor, or Sidious or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, that is a good point. That does paint an interesting picture because I think you see in the original trilogy sort of how intimidating Darth Vader is, and how, I mean, he'll just kill a guy that disagrees with him, but like Tarkin like has no problem talking back to him. And that's because they've known each other for so long at that point. Like we have no idea about their past relationship in the original trilogy movies, but here, I mean, it's been since Anakin, or since Darth Vader was young and was still a Jedi Knight. I mean, I guess he never becomes a Jedi Master really, but still, still was younger, and they have this relationship from back then, and they have this little bit adversarial but mutual respect relationship. And I think too that maybe that's why Tarkin's able to get away with stuff in the original trilogy movie, is because I mean, he's probably expressed, I'm sure, many more times in the intervening years his respect for Anakin, even if they don't always agree on things. So I'm sure, I mean, Darth Vader's still a human being, even though we don't get that at first in the original trilogy. But so I mean, this guy that obviously respects you, you're not going to treat him like you would some random officer who is disrespectful and who you don't know, versus Tarkin, who might say something, but you have this, he's professed his respect already multiple times, most likely.
Also, Tarkin, like in the Chancellor knows, and we see this, like, and Tarkin basically says it, like throughout the trilogy, the Emperor is, still wondering if Darth Vader, will turn back to the light side. Like he still doesn't fully trust him that he's pure, dark side. Whereas Tarkin, he knows for a fact Tarkin's, you know, dark side. Like, okay, I'll do anything to win. Where he's like still not sure for 3 movies whether or not Darth Vader will do anything to win.
That's true.
He knows where Tarkin's loyalties lies.
That's true. So I mean, I'm looking at. I think I was still in my head looking at it this way. Is it's the Anakin Tarkin relationship is what I guess would inform me in the movies, but that may be a good point too. That Tarkin has a lot of power because of his relationship with the Emperor still. So Anakin, or Darth Vader might not really be able to treat him the way he treats some other people. Um, with the Jedi, so the Jedi tradition thing too. Actually, I'm just looking back at my notes. The That's basically Obi-Wan says at the end of the episode: if we sacrifice our code even for victory, we might lose that which is most important. So that is, I mean, what Anakin and Tarkin are saying are right. That yeah, the Jedi aren't willing to do whatever it takes for victory.
Well, also the Jedi aren't a military or a police force. They're like peacekeepers.
Exactly.
And like the peacekeepers like trying to like diffuse a situation, not kill through.
Yeah, yeah. Ahsoka has this conversation actually last season. I think in the Geonosis arc, with I can't think of her name right now. Um, with that other Padawan that she's sort of stuck on that mission with. I can picture her, but I can't think of her name. But yeah, she has a similar
Yeah, I know what
episode.
you're talking about.
Yeah, she's a similar conversation with her where they talk about like what it like what the peacekeeper role means as a Jedi, and Ahsoka defines it sort of in relationship to Anakin, like what he would say about it. That she says like what he would say isn't what necessarily the rest of the council or any other Jedi would say. And that's sort of what we see here too.
So, well, that's really all I have. This episode kind of just you see the shuttle, and then once their shuttle blows up, they're like, all right, we have to go to help, and it kind of moves into our next episode. If you want to go into Citadel Rescue, which I actually like better because you see Plo, Plo Koon, Plo
Plo Koon.
Koon a little more, and like another Jedi who I think is also like one of the best characters in the show.
After the ship and only way off the planet is destroyed, Anakin and Obi-Wan must lead the escaped prisoners across Lola Sayu's perilous landscape as Plo Koon commands a task force of 4 cruisers and their fighters through the Separatist defenses in a daring rescue. Even Piell is ravaged by anooba tracking beasts, but before he dies, he passes on his Nexus Routes coordinates to Ahsoka. When the survivors return to Coruscant, Ahsoka knows half the intel and refuses to disclose it to anyone but the Jedi Council, while Tarkin refuses to hand over his half to anyone other than the Chancellor. This description's so long that the last 30 seconds of the episode comprise 2 whole sentences.
Yeah. Yeah, so this episode, because we get to see Plo Koon again, and I think he's like one of the most badass Jedi there are. Like he is a badass. Like we see him in that second episode of the whole series, like second and third, where he's just like staying calm and he's waiting for rescue, and he's like, all right, I'm just gonna go outside and kill these droids, like in space.
Yeah, I honestly don't have much to talk about this episode because I feel like a lot of it was the 2 arcs or 2, sort of main arcing things that we talked about from that for both episodes. But the one thing in particular for this one is, so I kind of had the thought, like, okay, well, like the new Jedi are cool, like Anakin and Ahsoka, and they're like a little flippant or whatever, and they're like fun to watch, and like even like Obi-Wan is somewhere in the middle. Like I do feel like Obi-Wan's a good master for Anakin because he respects tradition, but he's not totally bound by it. But then some of the just like old school Jedi are just so like stoic and badass. Like I think it's Sassy Tin is the guy that leads the fighter pilots in this, and he
Yes.
says, and when he's going in, he says there have not been battles like these since the days of the old Republic. And then Plo Koon says, "Indeed, good hunting," and it's just such a cool scene. And they're just 2 such badass characters, like you don't get that from the newer Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah, the newer Jedi are like hipster Jedi.
Yeah, basically this episode's real who's who. I mean, we got Plo Koon, Saucy Tin, whose name I didn't know, but we've certainly seen him before. Adigalia, Kit Fisto are all part of this group. I kind of hate on the Wikipedia though. They have like real life images of these characters, which I don't want to see. I want to see their Clone Wars stuff, but especially the real life Kit Fisto picture they have is terrible.
Yeah. Well, he was in the actual prequels.
I know, but he looks so much better animated. Like I feel like I don't know. I feel like they do varying degrees of, or they have varying degrees of success with translating some of these characters from animation to real life, like Ahsoka and the Mandalorian's good. Kit Fisto in the prequels not so good. Versus Kit Fisto animated looks awesome.
Yeah, Kit Fisto. Yeah, the live action Kit Fisto is kind of creepy.
If you look up the saucy tin, like live action, he's not the worst. He looks well. I guess he looks like the devil guy from the cantina scene. I think they're in there. Like he's one of those guys. It's kind of weird looking.
Yeah, because there's a picture of Kit Fisto and Saucy Tin next to Obi-Wan on the Wikipedia.
I kind of want to see whatever this Kit Fisto comic looking thing is too in the Wikipedia too. But anyway,
Yeah, so I mean, I really like this. You see a lot of battles. You see like, and what I mentioned a lot of episodes is basically like, oh, this doesn't really have much to do with the Clone Wars, and like this particular, it takes there's no real politicking or anything. Like it's like really like Clone Wars. Like it's two armies fighting over the same route to attack each other's like capitals.
it's true. They're pretty high stakes in these episodes. Yeah, versus yeah. This is probably one of the higher stakes episodes we've had, actually, if you think about it that way.
And I think we only see Dooku like a couple times in the second episode, and it's really about the warden. I mean, like, and how useless was that warden?
Well, that's one other thing I want to talk about from this episode was I kind of hated the video gaminess of these episodes a little bit. Like, I feel like okay, so if you're gonna die if you don't capture these people back, like why are you sending like individual waves of troops? Why aren't you sending every friggin' troop you have on that planet to surround them?
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of like the video gaminess of like, oh, here's a wave of battle droids. All right, well, here's a wave of slightly harder battle droids. Oh, this is the flying battle droids. Oh, this is the boss level. We got the guys with shields. Like, I like that kind of bothered me. But then on the other hand, I was thinking about too when because we see a lot of incompetent commanders and stuff. Like that's sort of what happens here. Like this, you just have this sort of like middle management guy like running this prison, and like he's pretty good at his job. He's like not the worst. He's like not the best. Like he's but I mean I feel like that's real life though. Like if you're running an entire I mean, think about like the scale of the Separatist army or the scale of the Republic army. Like you're just gonna have a lot of middle managers that don't give that bit much of a crap about their job. And I mean, or aren't talented enough to move up, and they just kind of got to where they are, and that's where they are. And that's so.
Yeah.
So I mean, sometimes I think you roll your eyes like, oh well, how could they not do this? And it's like, because they're just not that good. Like and that happens in real life too.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't realize how big this warden was. Like when he's like up against Tarkin. And if you look at Tarkin, like Tarkin's probably like 6'2", from like any scale, and this guy's like 2 feet taller than him.
Yeah, but he's not taller than a lightsaber.
No. Yeah, he died. Like I thought there was going to be like an epic battle, and nope, he just got stabbed through the heart by Ahsoka.
Died like a chump.
And yeah, so I mean, I really like these episodes, and like you talked about in the beginning or the middle of our episode, like they got back to Coruscant, and they just had a like, oh, I'm only giving my half to this person. I'm only giving my half to this person. So
in the next episode, it starts in the Jedi Temple, and Yoda's on one side, and Palpatine's on the other side, and they have a tape line in the middle, and they say, well, everything on this side is everything the half's my side, everything on that half's your side, and it's a whole 80s sitcom vibe. Pretty sure that's what happens.
All right, thanks for listening to this week's Whole Week Costa. For Kev, I'm Jay. Check us out on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, our Libsyn page, and Kev's making YouTube videos. Thanks for listening to this week's Whole Week Costa.